Hello Internet, Shannon here, and it looks like we're heading towards the end of Pokemon Month. Last time I took on the movie, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, admiring its desire to be a special snowflake of the bunch. Though the movie I have for you today, not so much. Thanks to your comments and suggestions, I present to you the 10th Pokemon movie set in the Diamond and Pearl phase of the anime. Let's see what we have in store this time as we take a look at The Rise of Darkrai. This time around, Ash, Dawn, and Brock have arrived at Alamos Town for Dawn's next Pokemon contest, while continuing their journey in the... Wait, hold on. Fact check. Okay, I'm good to say it's in the Sinnoh region this time, because you know I always get my locations right. Anywho, upon their arrival, they meet Alice, a hot air balloon tour guide and music student who has the ability to soothe the fighting between Pokemon with their grass flute. But soon, unfortunate events occur as Darkrai, a legendary Pokemon in the control of nightmares, comes to supposedly wreak havoc upon the town, in which Ash and gang follow in hot pursuit to stop him. Can our heroes defeat Darkrai and stop the nightmares from continuing? Or is this a sign for a bigger threat to befall the town and maybe the entire world? Yes, it is. Okay, so here's the thing. After watching the movie a couple of times, I'm confident to say that I'm okay with the plot, but at the same time aggravated, like how you would finish a school project with some duct tape because it was almost a deadline and you just wanted to get it done, yet you wished you had more time to make it special. Well, this movie is basically that, but here's why. Firstly, I do like the fact that we get into the dirt of the movie at a reasonable amount of time. Something, if you recall, I said was a problem from the 8th movie. But the dirt we got was very standard, almost to the point where I thought a lot of these situations and instances happened before in multiple movies. And it's only now that it's become more obvious as I grew up. So, for curiosity's sake, I went over to Bulbapedia to look up some trivia on this movie, and lo and behold, not only was I right, but they specifically list what elements of this movie were similar to elements from previous movies. And it stems from this plot's main problem, that it's become the standard template for all existing Pokemon movies after this one. Yes, there is no human antagonist in this movie, and that's great, but the template is still there. Notice how in movies 1 through 9, we at least get a plot that tried to be as much family in these family movies, then just make something super okay and safe for a kids movie, if that makes any sense. It's still a movie families could watch together, but Pokemon movies have always been known to grab a fan base of both young and older fans, but it seems like they tried too hard to appeal to the kid movie safety net. Now I know I'm going to get the, well, you're older now, so your taste in these movies would of course change, so it's no wonder you do not enjoy these movies as kids now. And frankly, I'm not doubting you on that, but Megan brings up a good point in her review of the 3rd movie. It was done in a way where people of all ages could enjoy it, and I felt that for this movie, a lot of the messages they were trying to teach were watered down to fit the kids label. The main trend about how songs can soothe the most heated of fights became overplayed real fast. Not to mention that the way the song was presented was a little too obvious in terms of foreshadowing. It just felt kind of meh in a way. Like if I walked over to my cousin's house and played Wheels on the Bus to stop her fighting with her brother to try to quell their energetic souls. But you know who else is able to soothe the savage wrath of children and in a much more efficient way?
My mom!
On the bright side, I did like the movie much better once it got to the second half, because the very beginning made a great setup for these two legendaries' fight, and Palkia's decision to escape into the human realm to ward off its injury. It's a cool idea about the responsibilities of power a legendary holds, and it's not always humans who need to be responsible for the Pokemon world, but equally the Pokemon who are powerful enough to make a difference. In short, Pokemon can mess up as much, if not even more than humans can sometimes, which is what I liked best about the theming of this movie. But despite all that, plot-wise, it just felt like a really long episode of Pokemon than a movie, with the core solution of the movie being again so in our faces that it screams, kids won't get this if we make it complicated, let's just reiterate the solution 3 times in the movie before the climax. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about plot. The characters for this movie, whether they are Ash and friends or the movie exclusive ones, came off honestly as a mixed bag. Luckily there was no chosen one aspect, but rather the three of them coming here for a reason only to be caught up in the circumstances. Yeah, they came at the opportune time when things were about to go awry, but we wouldn't have a movie otherwise. Props to Don though for actually contributing a little more in the latter half of the movie for the save the town bit, though Ash in this movie felt very lukewarm, which is one of the reasons why this movie felt like a very long Pokemon episode. Most of the time, if he's not going with the flow, he waits till the last minute to vaguely put two and two together with things that could help their situation. It's hard to fully explain, but ironically he didn't fill his main character role for a movie as much as I would have liked. It's just overall, the main trio didn't make much of an impact on the movie at all. You could just copy and paste anyone else in the same roles and the movie wouldn't have been that different. Yeah, I do get tired of the chosen one / shoehorn Ash into everything plot type bit, but that doesn't mean you take the other extreme entirely and make him and the others completely transparent either. Team Rocket and all the other exclusive characters got more life in them this time around than the main trio, and that's really disappointing. Hence why again, it only felt like a Pokemon episode and not a movie. Speaking of Team Rocket, just bravo. Like usual, you guys didn't get much screen time, but you three really made certain characters a lot more tolerable to deal with. The few scenes you got were great, so good on you guys. Now moving on to those movie exclusive characters, let's start with Alice, and out of the three being highlighted, she was the most pleasing. Her biggest hook as a character is her relationships between her grandmother, Tonio, and even Baron, for she is the centerpiece of it all. It was her grandmother who taught her the song from the grass flute that eventually hinted at what they needed to do to save the day. Her attraction towards her childhood friend Tonio was cute and straightforward, something I was surprised about because when Baron shows up, she's quick to defend her own thoughts against his skewed one, which I liked a lot. And her ultimate connection with Darkrai helps ties further things along, so for her role she did pretty well. Tonio is in the middle for me. As the researcher this time around, because what Pokemon movie wouldn't be complete without one, we learned early on that something unusual is becoming worse over time throughout the movie. And I know it sounds harsh, but as a plot device, he does his job. Because of his ongoing research within the tower, it explains how the gang got access to everything they needed to do in order to save the day. But as for his role as being a childhood friend love interest, well, meh. It could just be that I personally didn't like how he handled the cliff with Alice, but I'll get to that part later. Moving on to Baron. Actually, no. I'm just gonna say that for me, he came off as really annoying, being the arrogant stuck-up who didn't get his facts straight until the truth was pushed right in his face. I was like, oh my god, you're lucky Team Rocket in the latter half of the movie softened her purpose, because I really wanted to punt you. Lastly, let's talk about Darkrai himself, where he was my favorite character. Pokemon character? This is where I'm still not sure of. You see, Darkrai's introduction comes off as the same as any other legendary Pokemon, putting him on the full Pokemon role of the movie. But his actions against Ash and Pikachu, for example, easily put him in the character Pokemon role. Basically, he does play a role more like Lucario in his movie, or Latios in its movie despite not having a speaking role. And that's what confuses me. I'm not really sure, and someone please in the comments help me with this one. I honestly got confused to whether the movie wanted him to talk more or they just gave him more time to be highlighted as the dark hero who was misunderstood. Plus, the few times he talked in the movie could have just been an easier way of telling the audience what's going on. But again, the talking element felt weird this time around. I would have preferred it if they gave him either a full speaking role the whole time or not one at all. True, you could say they were going for a shadowy figure type deal, but as great as he was, that aspect stopped working once things got serious. Bottom line, Darkrai was a great Pokemon and character in this movie, but some of his execution to relay information to the audience needed work. So before I said my things about the plot and characters, which as of right now still makes the movie enjoyable to me. In reviews where I have to really go into detail about what I liked and disliked about it, it's normal for things to sound a lot more antagonizing than they actually are. But then again, that's a given. Though I'm going to be real with presentation. I really didn't enjoy presentation for the dubbed release, not because of the animation, but for its sound. But before all that, let's talk about the animation. This is the first Pokemon movie in chronological order to be fully digitally colored, whereas the previous ones were cel animated. Now, I'm not saying that the switch in formats made the movie worse. In fact, with Ohm's signature art style, it does its job, but it does bring up the problem of certain scenes being flat if there was not enough shadow or light. I'm not an animation expert by any means, but that's what it comes off to me, as nitpicky as it is. There are a few animation errors here and there, but that's to be expected from any kind of movie. Though the way things are animated further consolidates the long episode over movie feeling I've been constantly getting. But that's about it for animation. And now for sound! Oh boy. So if you remember back to our top 10 worst English dubs, Diamond and Pearl is at the top, and I came into this movie with low dub voice expectations already, but man was it bad! It's like all of DP's dubbing issues were concentrated in this one movie, the worst offenders of this movie being all the movie exclusive characters, Alice, Tonio, and Baron, because of how their delivery sounded so disheartening. All three voices on some different level sounded lazy, like they didn't want to be there or just doing their job for the paycheck. Alex, played by Christy Hivans, did a performance where just speaking normally was okay, but when it came to reacting to other characters or conveying emotion, it's either no change in the voice to fit the reaction, or when there was, it's not executed well. Tonio, played by Rich McNana, was okay during the time for research bits of the plot, but when it came to interacting with people, especially Alice, he comes off a bit weak, though in retrospect, I did warm up to his performance. It did take me a while though, so overall not bad. Baron, though, played by Axe Norman, no, can't do it. His delivery was annoying. It's like he tried to be hammy for the character and it just didn't stick well for me. Of course, it's not the worst thing I've ever heard. By far, no. I could just hear obvious laziness to get a voice that sounds like it works but really didn't. Minor spoiler here, but when he transforms into a Licky Licky later on in the movie, I oddly enjoyed his voice a lot more. Anyway, the voices of Ash, Dawn, Brock, and Team Rocket all sound like their normal DP voices, and besides what's been said in the top 10, it's standard fare. Except for that ending, but I'll talk about that in a moment. Finally, we have Darkrai, played by Scott Williams, who didn't get much speaking time, but the lines he did say were good, so there's really not much else to say. And with that, let's move on to Aftershow. And here we are again, the after show spoiler section, a place where I can talk as a fan, chillax, and give my rawest thoughts about the movie. This section is for those who have already finished the film, so without any further questions, this is your final spoiler warning. So let's get the speed real quick. After some Pokemon battles, one hilarious transformation, very thick fog, and a childhood story, our heroes collectively agree that Darkrai isn't the one behind the spiritual occurrences. Antonio explains that it's in fact a result of Palkia's multi-dimensional influence from when he entered their realm. Ashton remembers back to the nightmare Darkrai showed him before, where he believed that this nightmare was actually a warning about Palkia and Dialga's arrival. Of course, that warning was realized way too late when the two legendaries not only arrive at the town, but Palkia turns the town into the unknown dimension and the new battleground for their continuation of their brawl. What makes matters worse is that because of the change in dimensions and radical clashes of the legendaries, it causes the town to disappear. Darkrai, however, is not having any of that and acts upon itself to confront the two in order to try to protect Alamos Town and everyone in it. As everyone gets to safety, Tonio remembers an important detail from Godly's diary and suggests that they use the tower's music machine to play the Arassian song, the very same song that was played on Alice's grass flute, for it's their only chance to stop the two clashing legendaries. From there, the plan was hatched. Ash and Dawn will go grab the song's music disc and make their heroic climb towards the top of the tower, all while Darkrai fends off the two legendaries, even though it's becoming highly exhausted from the drawn-out battle. And right before Ash and Dawn reach the top, however, that fending off turns south as both Palkia and Dialga cease fire on each other to stop Darkrai from butting in their fight. And well... yeah. Luckily, with the help of some Pika power, the machine was finally able to turn on, soothing the two legendaries. Then we are treated to this.
You've destroyed the whole town! All the Pokemon! You bring this town back to the way it was!
I get that the situation is bad and you're pleading to Palkia to make things back to normal, but no. That dub performance, I'm just not feeling the emotion you're trying to put into it. All that aside, Palkia realizes what it's done and with its power turns the town back to its original dimension, and everything is lollipops and rainbows. But oh wait, what became of Darkrai, that wonderful dark knight that protected the town despite all the backlash it got? And now, he's dead. Dead! Dead, I tell you, oh! There it is! Darkrai's alive, and everyone lived happily ever after. Alright, so yeah, the ending wasn't really my thing. Not because Darkrai didn't die, but because the way it led up to a presumed death, and then oh, he's there, just screamed overdone kids movie. And it's a little bit okay since I liked Darkrai being alive. I really did. His involvement in the entire movie was great, but it's another occurrence of how it didn't stick for me. Now, I did like the putting all the pieces together part of the climax, where all the characters figured out which symbols on the music disc matched the song they needed. Conclusively, this all comes down to how the movie's little parts were enjoyable, but easily got overshadowed by its directive mentality and delivery. So again, the climax was okay. Now with all my nitpicks out of the way, let's go to final thoughts and wrap this movie up. The Rise of Darkrai wasn't a bad movie. Its little charms focused on Pokemon really made the movie enjoyable at times, but it also wasn't the best movie where the voice direction, foreshadowing, and characters was not all there. In short, I really wish the movie was a long special like Mewtwo Returns than giving a full movie release because I believe its plot would do better for it. It felt right in the middle, giving a standard experience that did the job, but overall it felt like its over-focus on target demographic really kept this movie from being the above-average family experience that I've come to love from Pokemon. So after some consideration and 42 minutes of smooth jazz played by the grass flute, I award The Rise of Darkrai with the recommendation to try it before you buy it, and with the watchability rating of E for everyone. Technically renting it in this case. Like I said before, it's a movie worth checking out if you have the extra few bucks to rent it, but it just doesn't do enough to persuade me to buy it. Regardless of my age, it just feels like a Pokemon movie, which it should, but nothing more than that, as it tried too hard to walk upon the kid's safety net, which is kind of disappointing since Darkrai was the best part of this movie. But anyway, like the Lucario movie, you can find this in a lot of places domestically in North America. But good news to all you internationals, because if you go to Pokemon.com, pick your country that's represented on the site, and go to the Watch Pokemon TV page, it gives you info on where to watch the movies, and if and where they are available to you on certain platforms. I'll have a link in the description below for more details. Like before, no normal recommendations, but anything we have reviewed throughout the month should do you plenty, so get a comfy chair and enjoy to your leisure. So that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed all this Pokemon goodness, and as the month draws to a close, I want to thank everyone who has watched, liked, shared, and supported us. It really does mean a lot, and I hope you'll continue to support us in our future projects. With that being said, this is Shannon, and until next time, stay tuned to Anime America.
Want to support the production? Check out our brand new store on Store Envy. For a small price, you can have a one-of-a-kind poster made by yours truly. If you can only give a small amount to help us out, check out our Patreon page. Any amount you wish to give us goes towards our production needs, so anything you can give us helps us a lot. To keep up with the latest in Anime America stuff, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even Tumblr. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe to Anime America for more awesome reviews and top 10 lists. If you're interested in anything in pop culture, be sure to subscribe to Pop Spectrum. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned to Anime America.
Gotta catch 'em all.